Test. You just change the button.
Ah, it works.
Yes, and there are four students from MBM. Those who are graduates.
hope is they are able to inspire you to do as well as they did, or even better. And maybe they can also provide some, tips and career guidance for you as well. Okay. So this afternoon, we're privileged to have with us Dash. He's MBM 1988, and he's currently based in Singapore and is very much involved in the new digital economy experience. Okay. He's an independent director of AI Robotics Limited. AI Robotics was founded with an aim to make mobility safer and more efficient using artificial intelligence and robotics. He's also the Singapore principal for iValley Innovation Center. iValley Innovation Center is a corporate fintech accelerator in East San Francisco Bay Area, providing agility and direction to financial institutions by allowing them to tap into and co-create an ecosystem of startups to maintain a continuous focus on innovation. He's also a member of Access, stands for Association of Cryptocurrency Enterprise and Startups in Singapore. It envisions Singapore as a premium global hub for businesses driven by digital currencies and blockchain technology. But that's just his hobby, okay? His day job actually is as an investment banker. He's a director for the foreign exchange options trading of Commerce Bank in Singapore, where he's globally in charge of the yen as well as emerging Asian currencies. Prior to Commerce Bank, he was the Asian head for forex options trading in Natixis Bank, also in Singapore. He also worked at the Wells Fargo Bank in Hong Kong as head of foreign exchange derivatives trading for Asia. Before moving to Hong Kong, he occupied the same position in Wells Fargo, but based in the US. It might interest you to know that his banking journey began with an internship at Citibank while he was an MBA student here at AIM. Aside from his internship, he also made Citibank his MRR topic, and he formulated a strategy for Citibank's global transaction banking group. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Snehashis.
Thank you, Bernie. Just 2 weeks ago, I was speaking to Bernie, and when he asked me to be present for the Alumni Hour, I was asking him, what should I say? And he said, just be there, just tell whatever your experience is at AIM and later on, how it helped you to do what you're doing. So today I'll just talk, and probably you guys have to listen. When you guys finish, you let me know. Because I can continue talking. Anyway, I think there is lots of things and experience I have which I can share with you, which might be interesting and relevant for you, because I went through the same process 21 years ago. During our time, it was a 2-year course. So probably you guys have a bit more compact, and we'll feel the lack of time compared to what we experienced. But I don't remember we had more time as well. Do you still have wax can groups? Okay. That was a nightmare, I remember. But I will tell you something about my first experience and how it shaped whatever I'm doing now. When I decided to join AIM, I decided because I was not happy with what I was doing in the engineering firm where I was an engineer. And I thought studying management will help me to get better in terms of as a profession and also to realize my potential more. So I came to IIM thinking it will be just like or similar to the engineering course which I did. Now, how many of you are engineers here? 1, 2, 3. So probably 15%, I would say. Okay. So those who are engineers, you will know that how the courses are very theoretical. So we had to just do with the written exams, know the techniques and theory. So when I did my engineering, I was like a geek. I never used to talk much, and I was sharing this with Bernie earlier. I was good at written examinations. When I had to talk, I will be very shy. I won't be able to express as fluently as I should. So when I came to AIM, I never realized that it was a case study method. I heard about it, but I never thought it was like 100% case study. Or rather, during our times, it was 90% because we still had quantitative analysis, which was written. So the first few weeks, I was like a zombie. I was like a statue because I did not know what to speak, how to convince, how to crack a case. And even when some of the teachers wanted to help me by looking at me, I felt even more fearful and afraid of what to speak. My friends were very concerned. They said like, dude, if you don't speak, they're going to send you back. You have to make your point. You have to understand that. So it took me a week or two more to really get that motivation of the guts to just speak and convince whatever I understood of the case. And that was something which really helped me later, because you are as good as you can articulate your thoughts. You are as good as you can convince the strategy, the formulation, or whatever you understand of how the next action should be taken, either by the company you work for or the group you're leading. So it's very important that you can speak in a convincing manner and really channelize whatever you understand. And that is one of the most important trait or characteristics which I took away first, and at least the first, by the end of the first month, I was able to speak and get rid of my fear. Later on, I found how you can use that in the company or the organization you're working for to prove a point. Because at the end of the day, when you guys, all of you, will be going to work, you have to speak up for yourself, either be it any form of management, if it's operation or marketing or finance, and you have to stick to a particular plan, and then you have to make sure that it is understood by either your colleagues, co-workers, or even your bosses. So that's one trait I really think AIM has helped me. The second is possibly time management. We were always running out of time, trying to complete the wax, complete the case, and making sure that we understood and making a point in the class. and then making sure that the point is relevant as well. Because there were situations when some points will be made, but they may not be relevant. Then it doesn't make much sense. Looking back, actually, those 2 years, we not only studied, but we formed some interpersonal relationships. And those helped, or we are still nurturing those relationships. Like today I met one of my classmates, and we were talking about, she's also doing a startup, and we were sharing some of our ideas about funding, And these relationships matter when you grow. You go individually into different countries, into different businesses, into different organizations. But the relationship you make here stays on, and you can bank on those to leverage in whatever industry you might be going. So I would really request all of you to keep the friendships which you are forming here, because what's going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years will get more digitalized. Everything will be online. Our relationship on a physical level will go lower, whereas on a digital level will go higher. Now, on a digital level, there is always a sense of who you can trust and who you cannot. And that is why I will be talking about the digital aspect of trust tomorrow on one of the course which I'll be speaking about. But what happens is the physical aspect of any relationship, that you're meeting your teachers, meeting your friends, you're having a CAN group, you're developing that trust, you're developing the sense of how that person is. You're liking some aspects of him, you are not liking some aspects of her, and with that you are trying to compromise the relationship you as a friend. And that is very important, because we are all humans, we have our negatives and positives. But within those parameters, you have to build that relationship so you can trust each other, knowing fully well that there are shortcomings that you don't get on the digital space. In next 10 years, this digital relationship or digital transactions, be it on an economic or on a personal level, will increase drastically. But on a physical level, the friendships you guys will make here will last longer. So just be aware of those, because I am benefiting from those relationships till now. And some of my friends who I made here, they are becoming almost as close as family, because every time I talk to them, or they are in Singapore, I am here, it feels like back in the old days how we used to talk. And that gives you a sense of joy which is rare, which you won't get. After you go into your respective work, into respective industry, things will be cutthroat. You will be competing for making more profit for the company, or chasing for a particular goal, either be it marketing or in the operations. You will have less time. So these are some of the important aspects which I feel now, which really shapes anybody graduating, be it from any college. But more so for MBM, because all of you will be in decision-making positions after you graduate at some point. I have some more points, but before that I would like to ask any of you if have anything you want to know, you have any question, you have any query, either about your course or the future, how, and then we can talk about that before going on to further sharing of what I was thinking. Yes, please, Poonam.
Did you take any? Sorry. Did you take which concentration subjects did you take to get into the AI robotics field after the MBM? Was it relevant or was it from your background because you are an engineer?
Okay. So definitely engineering background helped me to get into the job which I started back in '98. I will tell you how I got a job. It's at least Bernie thinks it's interesting. So I will share that with you. But coming back to your point, yes, I think early 2012, when AI was getting more prominence, we found that in our industry, AI is taking over, especially on linear trading. By linear trading, I mean any asset which trades on a linear fashion. Linear means line, right? So if you draw a line on a two-dimensional space, so every point on x-axis corresponds to one point on a y-axis. That is a linear. So any commodity, any stock, foreign exchange are linear. But when you derive a particular value and trade that, which we call derivative, those are nonlinear. So that means the shape of the profile is not as a line, it's like a curve. So for linear trading, artificial intelligence was able to replicate what a human can do. So a lot of jobs went into algorithm. So the algos will automatically trade out of a position. So what it means is that, let's say you are a company who is having business operations worldwide. You are manufacturing in one country and you're selling in another country. So your revenue in the country where you're selling will be in the currency of that country. However, your cost will be in the currency of the country where you're manufacturing. So your balance sheet will be in the country where you're manufacturing. So the revenues, which is in the foreign currency, needs to be sold off and bought into the local currency. So the company goes to the bank and then does that transaction. So in the bank, the trader makes a market and then trades. And then the trader has the option either to hold on to that transaction in an effort to make more money out of it, or can get out of the transaction in the market and get rid of the risk for the bank. Now that trader's job can be done by an algorithm. Because the nature of the movement of the underlying transaction is linear, the algorithm can do it. So there is where artificial intelligence came in. Yeah. So when in 2012 and 13 it came, we knew that a lot of trading jobs will be automatized using artificial intelligence. So then I started to read on it and understand it better. And I was also fortunate enough, one of my very close friend, who was a CEO of a big FTSE 500 company, and he used to get some advice from me regarding markets, because I'm in the markets for a long time. And he left his position and he has opened this startup where he will use artificial intelligence in mobility. So my close friendship with him and my knowledge on the markets, and because I do advise him, he wanted me to sit as an independent director as well as an advisor to his company. And that's how I got involved. The company started in 2016. Yeah, and right now we have a product commercially which we are clocking revenues, and we are talking to the National Park of Singapore to automate some of their mobility needs. I hope that answers a little bit of your question. Not particularly any subject I took here. Yeah, here I remember that we had quite a few electives in our second year, and we were able to choose. The subject which really helped me in my final semester was a subject called Options and Swaps. It was taught by Professor Romulo Neri, and I was absolutely impressed with the content, so much so that I do remember, and this is another dramatic moment I never forget in my life. After doing the course, I was fortunate enough to top the class on that subject because it was quite a mathematical topic, because it is basically pricing of options and derivatives. But on the last day, before after submitting my MRR, I flew to Singapore. So we were having a lot of friends. So as what happens on the last day, you get to meet most of your friends, and you spend half of the night over drinks and partying because you don't know when you will be meeting again. And I still vividly remember that one of my classmates, his name is Bharat, and he was asking me, dude, you're going to Singapore tomorrow. What is your dream job? I mean, I know you will be. And at that time, getting a job after graduating, I don't know now how it is, how the placement is, but during our times, the placement cell was not very active. And we were always making sure that we will work on to get our own jobs after we graduate. And we used to start that whole process 6 to 7 months early before we graduate. So I had already planned that I will submit my MRR. I won't wait for the graduation ceremony. I might come back, but I will submit, do all my formalities, and I will go back, go to Singapore, get a job, and then. So I remember that night, so Bharat asked me, dude, what's your dream job? You're going. And I said, my dream job will be if I get a job in option trading. And whenever Bharat comes to Singapore, he said, you're living your dream. I said, it's a fortune which I don't know how it happened. So I can tell you that, yes, that is what I said. And finally I got a job in option trading within 3 weeks in Singapore. And I'm still doing option trading as my main profession. So I do not know how it happened, but definitely this is something which I will never forget. And that course, the Swaps and Derivatives by Professor Romulo Neri, was very instrumental for me to get the job, because I was asked some of the questions and I just answered based on what I studied. But there was one question I remember. So talking about jobs, so I go down to Singapore with a 3-week visa for tourist visa. And normally what happens is people apply for jobs through the HR. normally the HR, would you think that HR is the right approach to get a job? No, right? What would you guys do? Huh? Who hires you, right? Yeah. Right. So that's what I did as well. So I found out through some of my contacts that there is a directory in Singapore called Schroeder's directory. And that directory had the list of all the names of the head of options, head of swaps, head of bonds trading, head of FX trading. And I was cold calling all of them from that directory. And that was the height of the financial crisis, 98. So banks were not really hiring, they were firing. So nobody was willing to entertain me. And it was a bit frustrating, but you have to do what you have to do because without a job you can't go back home. And I had already taken quite a fair bit of loan from my dad. So I don't want to go back home without a job. And it will seem like a prodigal son, right? So I didn't know what to do. So luckily, I think on the 4th or 5th day, so I was calling one of the bank, which doesn't exist anymore. It's called Credit Lyonnais. It's a French bank. It merged with Agricole, known as Callion. And so I still remember the name of the person which was written. It was called Laurent Chokron. And I called him asking, but the guy who answered me saying that Laurent Chokron has left and how can I help you? And I introduced myself and luckily I was able to get an interview the next day. And he asked me questions based on what we studied on that subject, you know. So one of the questions which I did not know was purely a bit technical. I could not answer. And I said that, sorry, I don't know the answer. He said, why don't you think and tell me, I'll give you a minute. So normally, I'll tell you the question. I don't know how many of you guys have done options or is it a part of your course now? It's not. So what do you guys learn in finance? Corporate finance? Forecasting. Okay. But do you have any course on Okay. Okay. So there is. So you guys will probably have it later. So there was a question which was a bit tricky, where the normal answer is not. The answer is intuitively just the opposite. So luckily I was able to answer that, and then he gave me further interview, and finally I cleared 2-3 interviews. But it was interesting because the course really helped me to get through the interview process. It was a bit technical course, but it was good. Any other particular questions you might have? Abhishek?
No, no. Okay. Limutan ko yung tanong ko. Sorry. What was the hardest thing that you had to do while you're here in AIM, other than speaking up during your classes and doing all the wax?
Yeah, speaking was definitely something which I learned here. I never spoke in my life so much compared to the first few months, or let's say the first semester in AIM. So most of my education had been written. And that's how our schooling was done. All the exams were written. Even in my college, all the exams were written. You don't have to go and speak and prove a point. Although speaking or debating was done in school as college as well, but I was never a part of that activity. I was more on the sports side, so I was always playing rather than going and debating. So speaking was not my forte. But after AIM, I realized how important it is. I also realized that when you really want to learn anything, if you put your mind and heart into it, you can do it, and anything. And that is also one thing I want you guys to know, that if you really, really want to know anything, and if you really want to get good in that, skillful in that, all you need to do is focus and practice on that. I don't think smartness, intelligence should be given a higher ranking compared to practice and discipline. Coming back to your question, I think that was the hardest part, to speak and to express yourself convincingly, what you believe in, or your logic, your rationale. It's very important. And the case study method definitely is very helpful. Yes.
You were mentioning earlier that the derivative market is. Hello. As you were mentioning earlier, the derivative market is slowly changing with the AI trends coming in and technology playing a big part. Where do you see the derivative market in the next couple of years? Do you think the chances of it being completely automated are high, or there's still some human interaction which would be needed in this?
Very good question. So there are two aspects to this. Derivative market has been transformed significantly since the great financial crisis of 2007-8. Because the cause of the crisis, to a lot extent, was because of financial innovation in mortgage-backed securities. Since then, most of the regulatory bodies want to make sure that whenever we are doing any complex financial product, it should be properly explained to the clients or to the user of the product. And if it's not, if it's used only for speculation, then it may result in some form of a crisis. So since the great financial crisis, the proliferation of derivatives has reduced. And the speculative part of that has reduced significantly to the extent that the P&L as well as the volumes in the derivatives of different products across different assets have come down to in some assets it can be as high as reducing by 70-80%. The second aspect is the use of AI. So as I was answering Poonam's question before, AI is good in terms of trading for linear products. Derivative is non-linear. So which means that there is a subjectivity, a judgment, which needed to be executed when you're managing a derivative product, which is not yet done in AI, but that does not mean it will not be done in future. So maybe 5 years or 10 years down the line, AI will be used in the derivative space as well. But because of the shrinkage of the volumes, how far will the derivative market be growing, and whether the use of AI, it's anybody's guess. I do not know that. But AI will definitely proliferate, but it does not mean that it can be used for anything and everything. It has to be very focused on which particular asset class you are using, how you're using, whether you're using in operations, in mitigating risk, in finding out problems or wrong bookings, something like that, or whether you're using in trading, hedging. So as you go into deeper into the space, you will find that each and every aspect or operation within that industry are separate. Like as you look into a microscope on a cell, you see there is the cell membrane, you see the mitochondria, you see the DNA. So everything gets otherwise. So as you go into it, there is different aspect of the operations which are different. And AI will be probably used according where it is more effective.
Thank you.
But I think this is something which will get only more usage, AI, as a subject. And I think I was telling Bernie about it, that data science, probably you will be using a little bit of AI as well, right? So it's already there. And I heard some good reviews on the data science here. Mine was telling me that they have this, and yeah, so that's great. So you guys already have something very interesting, and if you get time, try to leverage what the institute has done in terms of the data science center, and I'm sure there will be more similar stuff going forward. And even the incubator, that's amazing, right? Yeah, so the level of artificial intelligence and machine learning, it's only getting better, and this will be used in different industries across, not only finance, it's been used in transportation, it's been used in operations, in industries, it's been used everywhere, wherever you go. So definitely it will be helpful if you know the relevance of these subjects, because it will be different, the implications will be different in different industries. Right. So I think in terms of what else I wanted to share, there has been a lot of things since I graduated in AIM, and the best thing I already told you, which I took from AIM, in terms of the skill set. But there are things which sometimes it's difficult to objectify. The management skills, the communication skills, the framework of general management and strategy, sometimes the marketing. So overall, the fact when you have a product or a service and how you can actually make it valuable for the user, and how you use different aspects or different management skills to really fructify the business into a profitable one, is something you will learn here. and you won't know how you will learn because you will be so busy spending your time doing the wax and making sure you understand the case. Sometimes you will get some similarities of the case in a real world scenario when you start working. But there is some learning always which is happening within you, very intuitively. And you will only come to understand that when you are working, 5 years, 10 years down the line, suddenly you will see, oh my God, I think I have read a case something similar to that. Then you will be able to relate. And that is the learning which will come back to you. You won't immediately understand now whether you are learning. After you graduate, you might have some thoughts. Oh, 1 year I spent, how much did I learn? Objectively, it will be very tough to really tell, okay, I did really spend so much money. Did I learn so much? If you really. But down 5 years, 10 years down the line, you will realize that you have changed for the better. The skill set, the soft skills. You won't even notice that. Perhaps a friend who hasn't met you for the last 5-10 years, that friend will tell you, hey, I like what you're saying, I like what you're doing. And a lot of credit goes into your association with the institute, with the faculty, with the people you meet here, because we learn subjectively as well, which you don't realize it. And you will only realize in experiences much later. So just follow the process, understand, try to understand, and do your best. And it's not about getting the best marks, because usually what happens is there is a high negative correlation sometimes with high marks and learning. I'm not saying it's always, and I'm not saying that you should not get high marks. But when you go for high marks, what you tend to do is you focus on getting the high marks without learning the intrinsic value which comes out of that particular subject or that particular course. So this is something which I thought I'll share with you guys, because I remember when I went for the engineering course as well as AIM. So we were always competing to get the best marks and best. But in this attempt to get best marks, you will only study those where you think the questions will come from, or where you think that the teacher will ask you. And you will probably neglect. But there are things which you need to learn which may not be related to marks, but it will affect your how you look at things, your perspective, and that is what matters most at the end of the day. Because marks will not get you a job, but how you do well in your job will depend upon your personality, upon how you can communicate, upon your interpersonal skills, and that is the most important. The soft skills. Of course, you have to know the subject as well. It's not that you cannot know the subject and only bank on your soft skills. And AIM did a great job in teaching the soft skills without making it apparent. I have a couple of slides I made. Yeah, please.
I just have a question.
Sure.
I agree with what you said that there's a negative correlation between getting a high mark and learning the intrinsic value. But what's the technique? I mean, because we're all pressured to pass as much as we want to get the intrinsic value of the learning. So what can you advise?
So It's a good question because I have to think before I answer. So, I don't want to go on record saying that you should not aim for high marks because Dr. Gan will kill me if I say that. So, but it's a very pertinent question, and I had the same thing. And usually, when I will not get the high marks, I will say I did it for learning, and but I think focus on the course as such, what the course is trying to teach you. The marks will automatically come. So marks should be the result of what you want to learn in the course. So for example, let's say you love marketing, right? So you want to learn why do we need marketing? Just the basic. I give you one example. If you say, why do I need marketing? We are teaching a skill to market a product. Now, to market that product, you're working for the company to make sure the product earns more revenue. So the objective of marketing is to build the revenue stream. But there is another intrinsic value. The product has to be of use to the client, to the customer, for the customer to pay that value, right? To pay the price. So you have to magnify the value of that product, the value of the service, so that the price the client or the customer pays is lower than the value that person gets. So that is the basic of marketing. The price the client pays should be lower than the value that client gets. Right? So now, to do that, what skill set you need? That is marketing, right? Now you have to understand. So if you understand those aspects of that particular subject, automatically you will get a grade. But I'm not saying you will get A, but definitely you will do better than pass. But go down deep into that subject which you are or which you want to learn. And it's not possible to have for every subject to learn. You have to make sure that you choose, these are the subjects I want to do well. And these are subjects I know I have to pass. So I will learn whatever needs to be learned about the subject. So you have to prioritize. Unless you like all the subjects and you really spend time learning and making sure that you get everything, which is sometimes very difficult, and especially for you guys when it's like a 12-month or 16-month course, it's not. So you have to find a way in you optimize which subjects you want to continue in your future career. Like what I did when so I concentrated on quantitative analysis. I concentrated on options and derivatives because that is the job I wanted. So concentrate on the subjects which you want to focus on, but that doesn't mean you will neglect the other subjects. Try to get the essence of the other subjects so that at least you are able to make sure you are at least get a decent marks enough. But going for marks will not help you to learn the subject better. That's for sure. That's what you have to understand. So just understand which subjects you want to do well and which subjects you love, and make sure you do that. And the rest of the subjects, make sure you understand the essence of it. And for learning the essence, take help of your teacher, faculty, of your friends, whoever is good at it. And that is what it's all about, I will talk you later on some basic aspects of human behavior. Sometimes there is an inherent human tendency of making things complicated, even though it can be made simple. And because we think making it complicated makes us smarter. It's not right. It's not true. To make it simple, you can make anything simple. All you have to do is to understand that subject very well. Then it becomes simplified. Now, for that you need to, not only when you cannot do anything, take the help of your friends. And you have to let go of your ego or whatever you might have that I can do everything alone. It's not possible. Whenever we all need a level of support, either family or friends or faculty. So, and they are there to help us. Yeah.
Could I just help you on this question? Being a retired professor from the National University of Singapore, I think you really have to discover and show your intrinsic value of your high marks. The high marks, get you into the job, first, but after that, if every one of you have got high marks, how would an employer distinguish you from another? And that is where your intrinsic value comes in. I was in AIM, during the peak of our prime. We were leading this school, and after I graduated, I applied to the university, and they had to refer my application to the business school to accredit it. And the business school came back because I applied to go back to my own faculty, which is architecture and building, and they said that this is a prime school. But when I'm in college, here, when I was what the Snehashis is doing, you have got to really plan ahead, and you have to really understand what are the strengths of AIM in order to make the difference. And I think that's where your intrinsic value comes in. If I have to, interview AIM graduate without knowing AIM and an INSEAD graduate, I will be seeking, apart from, the good marks, what is so special about a graduate. And I hope that, in these years that the AIM, you grasp what, the AIM is imparting to you, something that, is valuable and nobody has been able to replicate. He talks about the CASE method. I know that it is a very tough, teaching method and learning method, but that precisely brings you up at a higher level. And today I was just talking to one of your faculty members that when you do a CASE method and a discussion, the dynamics of it, equips you to run a board meeting. You see, because when you run a board meeting, you get various, the heads of department coming in with all sorts of views, and how do you gather that part? You see, so that is the intrinsic value of your, high score.
Yes, absolutely.
By the way, we're privileged today to also have Dr. Gan Chong Eng with us. Dr. Gan is also an AIM alumnus. He graduated from the same program as yours. Graduated in 82. And he just started a legacy fund for his class and to donate back to AIM. And as he said, he's a former professor of the US. He's also the immediate past president of the AIM Alumni of Singapore. So if any of you are planning on working in Singapore, just like Sneha, in the future, Dr. Gan is your key.
Snehashis, mentioned about friendship. I think that's very important. One of my major goals this trip is that I want to support him. When he told me that he's giving a fintech talk tomorrow, I said I'll come and support you. Because in today's context, unless you build alliances, you just cannot do it alone. You see, if you're looking for a job, all right, you must start cultivating friendships. And friendships take time to cultivate. People must be able to trust you in order to refer you to somebody else. You see, and that is why the alliances nowadays are important, because in today's world, you have got, a lot of collaborations and alliances. Just to do a little bit of selling for Singapore, we welcome, talents to Singapore. Singapore has shifted, its whole economy, not following others, but, to go ahead. And today we are looking at, talents and how we are going to tap talents. Snehashis, has been, doing something that, driverless cars. Something that, the government is, pushing because it's the new frontier. And my business philosophy is that, where no one is there, you be there. Of course, the greater the risk, but the more the profits. You see? And that is where, your courage goes as well.
No, it's fine. I just want all of you to not only acknowledge, but I want to share with you what Dr. Gan is doing now. Can I get your permission? So, only a couple of months ago, I learned that Dr. Gan is, at this age, he has started an entrepreneurial venture in Australia in agribusiness. So I was telling him just before this that you have raised the bar for AIM alumni, because I can't vision myself after 18 years I will start another entrepreneurial effort which you are doing. But I really want to learn more about it, and I really look up to that. Actually, I mean, it's impressive that you have so much energy. And that too on a different country. Amazing. So this is another example how AIM teaches you, which comes out much later also in your life. So it's really commendable, Dr. Gan. It's amazing. I think you should say something, how you started, how you built it up, and what you're doing now, just for the students to know.
I chose AIM because I wanted an Asian school, but I was quite ignorant of the case method. So at that time, AIM in Singapore was said to be a pressure cooker, and I really don't understand it. All I know is that it is Asian, and I just want to come in. And I've always anticipated, what am I going to do after I graduate? What are the electives I must choose? So being in the building background, I do a lot of contracts. Even now, the projects I'm handling, are usually multi-million. And I chose an elective, 3 electives actually called agribusiness. Something that, the other, the business courses do not offer. And I was laughed out of the class because they said, where is your farm? Singapore being so urbanized, you don't need agribusiness to farm your own backyard. So because of that, I'm determined that I do well, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it does help me to do barter trading. When you go up and do a project, and if the person has got no money, I say I can give you, so many tons of cashew nuts. So you got to hedge it and so on. And so when I retire, I decided that I've got enough of buildings, and urban life. And so I decided that I will go to Australia and take up something different. And as I was scouting for farmland, and because of the economics of there, I landed up with a piece of land, and I started experimenting with it. Now, not knowing anything about farming, technically, all right? In agribusiness, we manage business, the management principles. But how do plants grow? I don't even know that, I bought this piece of land, which is a bare land. And I didn't even know that, I need water. And when I asked around, I said, how do you find water? Which spot, of this 200-acre land, where do you dig? So there are a lot of, the people say, those from the scientific part, oh, you must take satellite photos, you must see soil strata, you must see gradient of land. And that cost me, thousands of dollars. So I says, it is too expensive. Until I met my neighbor, and he says that, don't worry, I'll just bring my family and to have a picnic there, and each of us will hold a wire. And interestingly, when you hold the wire, there are magnetic forces that guide the direction of the wire. So if you two of my children, you have wires going this way and we follow it, the intersection point will be a place where there's likely to be water. Then he located 5 locations. I started to dig, the first one 30 meters deep, I hit water. The second one, 10 meters, I hit water. So I'm learning that, this is divining. That people, do this type of things. You see? So this kept me, interested in doing, something that will, interest you and that, you have got, a love for it. And now, things have started, to flow, and then, you start to learn more and more. So this is a combination, as what Snehashis says, you learn something, but then you have to apply it, and when you start to apply it, you start to tweak it, and then, you get more and more.
Thank you, Dr. Lam. Thank you. We are still learning from you. It's great. Yeah, I think we can go to the slides which I have prepared, unless you have some questions for me, any other thing which I can add. Okay, okay. Okay. So I thought about it after speaking to Bernie, and then I was thinking I will share my experience on what I think about, and then I will share some quotes which really I take it as my guiding principles, because what we learn from AIM is the art of learning. You will not stop learning after you graduate. You will be learning in your own way in different subjects which you love, and you keep on acquiring new skill set, be it soft skill set or hard skill set. And as you learn over the next 10, 15, 20 years, you will have some guiding principles which will shape up your character, your personality, you as a human. And that will, what will make your life fulfilling. Because all of us, we come to study either a technical or a management school to self-actualize ourselves. But initially it is for survival, to get a good job, to earn more money. After a certain point, when you reach a point when money or survival is not at stake, then you try to find or realize the importance of understanding what you want to do in life. What is it which motivates you? And then you will find that there are some guiding principles, and each of you will have different ones. Although they might be similar in another sense, but from a practice it can be different. And I want to share some of the guiding principles which shaped me after AIM, and it's still shaping me. I follow these principles, and I hope it, in some way, these principles is able to excite you. I'm sure you will have different principles later on, which will be somewhat similar. This one is by the famous investor, Mr. Warren Buffett. And I find this is one of the most important guiding principle for me. Chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. Most of my skill set, and I was not born with, I developed it. And that is because of practice. And I sincerely urge all of you, you won't have time during your AIM coursework, but later on when you graduate, if you want to choose any particular skill set or any particular aspect to develop in your personality, you have that power to do it. Everybody has, each one of us has. All you need to do is to identify which skill set you want and then find out how you can acquire and then practice it relentlessly. To the certain extent it becomes a habit. When it becomes a habit, your subconscious mind practices it. You don't have to objectively find the time and effort. And when your subconscious mind practices it, you automatically change your personality pattern to acquire that skill set, to be good in that. And you refine it every day, the more you practice. And by practice, I don't mean you have to spend a lot of time. For example, you spend 1 minute every day, but spend that 1 minute to practice. If you want to learn to sing, spend 1 minute, but make sure every day, on that particular time, you spend 1 minute to sing. After 3 months, you spend 1.5 minutes. That half minute will not be a huge difference to you because that 1 minute comes automatically. It becomes a part of your habit. Just like if I ask you, did you brush your teeth yesterday? You won't remember. But of course you did, right? A lot of things we do, we don't remember because it's part of our habit. And when you internalize it, you automatically do without knowing. You don't put any effort in it. And that's how you change your behavior. You change to be a better in that skill set. So I think this is one of the most important because I would like to think wherever I am is a lot because of this quote in terms of trying to ingrain that discipline of practice. Do you have anything you want to ask about it, or I think it's pretty self-explanatory, right? The next one. Yeah. Go ahead. You have? Temptation. That's a very good point. Actually, temptations is a part of human personality and it is absolutely normal. So, and we will fall into temptation and it's absolutely natural. But after you have to pull yourself back. Let's say you want to practice a skill set and due to a certain temptation, one day you cannot. So the next day, you go back and practice that 1 minute. And be aware that you failed the day before and try not to fail again. And choose that time to be as low as possible so that it doesn't require a lot of effort. So if you, let's say, give me an example, what skill set you want to acquire which you don't think you have. Just an example. In finance, right? So what you need to do is choose the book or the teacher who you think can help you. If it's a book, just read for 1 minute every day. But make sure you read every day. But if you make that practice, that at such time, find the time and make sure you do that every day at that time. If it's like, let's say, evening 7 o'clock before dinner, you want to read. But do it every day, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. And then after 20 days, you do it 1 minute and 30 seconds. That 30 seconds will not require a lot of effort, because this 1 minute already, usually according to behavioral science, they say after 45 days, any habit becomes automatic in your system. So if you practice for 45 days, that 1 minute, like your toothbrushing, you will forget that you have done it, because it's part of your habit. A lot of things you do is part of your habit. You forget, but you're 100% sure you have done it. So you have to go to that level. So then 1.5 minutes becomes a half-minute practice, which you again do for the next 45 days. This is how you develop. Once it becomes internalized, it doesn't require an effort for you. And then you start learning. And this discipline and this practice, you will automatically learn any skill set you want. Of course, you have to love that skill set, because it's not that you want to get the result of it. Just like as I said before in the subject, as she asked, how do I reconcile between learning and getting a high results? You should be able to love that skill set. Then only you will acquire it. If you don't love it, you just for the show, then it's tough to acquire. You have to put your heart into it. So, but I got benefit out of it, and that is what I want to share, because I know it worked for me. And it's an universal thing. This is another. I think all of you probably know this quote, and it is one of another guiding principle I really feel it helped me, and I want to share with you. If you believe, and last night I was talking to Abhishek, and we were discussing about our course tomorrow, on cryptocurrencies. And I was telling him about trust. What is trust? We cannot see it, we cannot feel it, we cannot touch it, but can we deny the existence of trust? Similarly, can we deny the existence of belief? So there is something in our minds which happens, which doesn't have any material manifestation. But those things actually moves everything. And belief is that mental framework which will help you to be what you are or what you will be in future. Whatever, as you said, if you want to learn finance, you have to love it and you have to believe that you will be better at it and you have to practice it. So once you start believing it, you are internalizing everything to be what you believe in. It's pretty much self-explanatory, so I just will strongly urge you to have that belief in yourself in whatever you want to do, in either in AIM or in the future when you go, to realize your potential, because each one of you have huge potential. Most of the time I've seen people underestimate their potential. They do 10% of what they're capable of. And it's all in the mindset. This is back to the almost same guiding principle as the first one, when I said persistence. And that is the key. There was a research conducted by Stanford, I think, and it's on TED Talks, that which students are successful later in life and why are they successful. And they found that they did a lot of analysis, taking different aspects of their curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular activities and trying to find what is it exactly that mattered for them to be successful and later on happy. Because at the end of the day, we all are striving to get to that point where we are happy about who we are as a person, as a human. Because any profession can give you so much in terms of material comfort, be it money, be it fame, be it popularity. But even getting all this free, you will find that you are still missing something, you still feel empty. What will prevent that? And that is something which is again a mental framework. If you chase happiness, you won't get it. But somewhere you have to feel that. And when I'm talking about those students, so they found that it's not the academic results, it's not the soft skills. One thing which really made them successful and later on happy was grit. I'm sure all of you understand grit. And that is persistence. And this is what all of you have to develop in your respective field to actualize yourself. And it's connected with this quote. And that is why the river can leave a mark on the rock and not the other way around. So those are the three guiding principles. And I will share two more slides. This is the fourth and the last slide. This, I have a few things which I want to share. It's probably a little bit mathematical, but what Einstein mentioned was to get more knowledge, you have to get rid of your ego. If you have ego, it's actually a barrier to learn, which I'm sure all of you have experienced in some way, either through your friends or relatives or family or whatever. But you also need ego to self-actualize. What I mean is that to have that persistence, he wanted to learn finance, right? So he wanted to actualize, he wanted to develop skill set. And that is not possible without ego. How do you balance that? On one hand, one of our great scientists said that you need to get rid of your ego to learn. And on the other hand, you cannot learn without ego because you want to learn because you want to be somebody. So there is an apparent paradox or a dichotomy here. So you need to have ego, but you cannot show that ego to anybody else. So that is something which you need to understand. If you don't have that ego, you won't get to where you want. But if you show that ego as a person who is better, as you're comparing with your peers, then it again diminishes you. And this is something which you have to tread yourself into your personality and find how you can balance that. And that is an individual learning which each of us has to go through. And for me, it was a difficult journey because ego helps you to learn, but ego also makes relationships sour. And relationships are one of the most important things in life, which you will know when you come to Dr. Ghan's age. He came here just to support me, and he knows me only 1 year. And that is something which I cannot forget. And this is something, he knows how to value the alliances. And that you can have when you get rid of your external ego. But internally, you have to have some sort of motivation. And ego will provide that firepower. And last but not the least, going back to the relationship aspect where you may have to make sure this is ultimately what matters in life. Whatever you're studying here and whatever you will do later in life, ultimately when you come to an age of maturity, when you try to realize yourself, you will understand that the most important thing in life is to be loved by people around you, by your family, your friends, and whatever you've achieved, if you can achieve that with this, then you will feel that contentment which we all strive for. So with this, I want to conclude here.
Could I just add that, the last slide is very important to us. We are all, sharing a very common bond, and that is AIM. All right, without AIM, all right, it is just a friendship with any other people. And I think, the loyalty to AIM should always be in our heart. I know of a university in Singapore. It's a Chinese university. It's called Nanyang University. And when the Nanyang University, fell, the name was changed. The alumni all were very angry, but they disappeared. So what is holding us together throughout the years is actually that we have AIM. So many of you, I would like to encourage you that although we may be going out, we have some of the slides here or some bad memories, but it is this school that holds us together. When I talk to my students in NUS, because they are like builders, engineers, and we have professional bodies. And sometimes they complain, why am I paying, to $300 a year just to be a member of the professional institute? I say, even though they do nothing for you, the $300 puts up your flag that that profession is still, alive. So, that is what I want to tell you, that, as his last slide said, that when you talk about love spurs friendship, but love the school.
So I'd like to thank all of you for attending. But before we go, we also have something for our speakers. Dr. Jan, would you like to join us here in front?